Hi there, welcome back to the Car UK channel. Right, in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about 5 cheap cars that I think you should avoid. Now, some of these vehicles on this list are actually really popular cars and sold in big numbers. They are out there and they might look quite tempting, but I'm going to give you the reasons why I believe you should be avoiding them, or at least be very cautious in buying them. Now, to give some qualification to this, I am a motor trader and also been working in the garage sector for many years. Used to run garages and auctions and all sorts. So I have dealt with many of these vehicles in this list in one form or another, whether it's working on them or selling them, trading them on, etc. So I have got quite a lot of experience when it comes to the vehicles that I'm talking about and the faults that they have. And most of these vehicles have got well-known common faults. And I want to make sure that you don't fall foul of them when you're looking to purchase your next cheap car. Now, I've done one of these videos before, and you can find that in the link screen. So you might be wondering why in this video we might not talk about things like the PureTech or the Ford EcoBoost. Well, we mentioned that in a previous video, so we're not going to talk about them. We've not forgotten about them. It's not that I don't think they're rubbish, and if you're not sure why, check out the end screen and you'll probably find out. We're going to talk about fresh cars that I don't really talk about that much, but are still a cause of concern. So let's get ourselves through the list and start off at number 1, which might surprise a few people. Okay, so number 1 on our list is actually from Japan. It's a Mazda. Now, I'm going to use the Mazda 6 as an example, but this engine is not only fitted in the Mazda 6, it's fitted in the Mazda 3 and a couple of other models as well. And that is the 2.2 diesel, or it's called SKYACTIV 2.2D, fitted across the Mazda range. You see these in Mazda 6s and CX-5s, you see them in the Mazda 3s. That 2.2 diesel engine was quite a popular unit when it first launched. Very torquey, lots of power, and actually, in fairness, drove very well and gave decent economy. However, it does suffer with some catastrophic problems, mainly down to the fact of its DPF system. Now, most modern diesels have got DPFs. We've experienced that if you've had a diesel since really 2008 when they had to be fitted as standard. Some DPF systems can be a nightmare, and if they're not driven correctly, they just won't regen. Others can be great, but you just get some models which are just appalling, and actually, particularly where the engine's designed, can actually, when they go wrong, can destroy the engines internally by getting things sort of clogged up, like EGRs clogging up, can cause chain damage, oil dilution, and it can destroy those engines. And that is exactly what happens with the Mazda 2.2 SKYACTIV D engine. The car just simply does not regen, so basically it doesn't clear out its DPF filter basically efficiently enough. It always seems to get clogged up. That then basically clogs up all the EGR system, it can knacker the injectors, it dilutes the oil, so you actually get diesel or fuel going into the oil in the sump, and that expands into the engine and gets everywhere, and it can cause the chain to fail and stretch as well because it's not being lubricated properly. It's just an engine that you should avoid. I have bought a few of these. I've never looked to retail them in my pitch here or previous places I've worked at. I have bought a number of them, mainly always seem to be broken or been offered to me with issues. Some you can fix, some are just a nightmare. I ended up trading them out. They're just not, in my view, a reliable engine at all. There are far better diesels out there in other models that I will be looking at. I would definitely keep away from that SKYACTIV. And it's not just related to DPFs. They've also seen with head gasket issues, sensor failures, particularly sort of MAP and MAS sensors, which is probably more linked to the DPF and the clogging up of the engine itself constantly. Also, water pump failures, quite common as well. They are just dire, and I would just avoid them, particularly pre-2014 models. Right, let's move on to number 2 on our list, which is going to be Jaguar Land Rover products, particularly anything fitted with the 2-litre INGENIUM diesel engine. Now, this could be vehicles such as, and we're talking about cheap cars here now because the INGENIUM engine is still going on till today, which are things like the Discovery Sport. They're starting to come now sub £5,000, albeit with higher mileage on. You can get the odd Evoque that's a bit ropey now under £5,000. They certainly will be coming cheap very soon. We've been buying them for less than £5,000 trade, so retail they're going to be in that sort of sphere very soon. Also in Jaguars, particularly XE Jaguars, you'll find them relatively cheap these days, and they also fit it in the XF, to name but a few. Now, don't get me wrong, again, a bit like the SKYACTIV engine we just talked about a few moments ago, the actual INGENIUM engine, when it runs right and is not giving you any issues, is very good. It produces a lot of power, it's very smooth, and it's got very good economy on it, far better than its 2.2 predecessor, although that was really reliable. It wasn't the best on fuel. The 2-litre, brilliant. Euro 6 compliant, it just ticks all the bells and whistles, with the exception of particularly 2 major factors on it. And the first one is timing chain issues. They are renowned for timing chain issues and problems on them. And it wouldn't be so much of an issue if it wasn't such a bloody effort to get to fixing them. So, you know, you could put up with a car where the chain is on the conventional side of the engine. So if you open the bonnet, it's on the left side where your cam belt and your chain would be. Easy accessible, get it changed. So if you're going to buy one, you could just factor that in. The problem is they're not there. They're buried on the back of the engine behind the gearbox. Most of them, like particular Land Rovers, are going to be four-wheel drive. Some could be autos. It is a big job to get that chain out to do. It's probably like £1,500 these days. And even that is a reasonably cheap quote. You can even pay, you know, double that in some cases. And they are renowned for it, unfortunately, particularly the pre-2019 ones. They suggest that after 19 that things got better. Evidence is a bit patchy on that. I think it probably has got better, but there's still the odd issue. But the main seen problem before 19 was, they say, chain stretching, which can be for all sorts of reasons, linked to DPF issues we'll get onto in a minute. But the design of the chain wasn't the best. Guides as well, so the plastic guides can break, as an example of one here. They were very flimsy. And when they go wrong, it's catastrophic. You know, it can be thousands and thousands of pounds to replace the engine. And it isn't just you hear about it now and then. It's actually quite common. So I'm not saying don't buy one, because they say they are great to drive, but you've just got to bear in mind when buying one, you don't want one with a chain fault. So, you know, buy one that's had a chain done recently, or buy one with decent history where it's been looked after. Keep away from ones that have got rattles or don't sound correct, or, you know, go buying one from auction. Blimey, you've got to really know what you're doing. You're buying one from auction. Most of them are in there for a bloody good reason. You've got to be able to pick these out and make sure you're not buying a pup, because this is not a straightforward thing to sort. So yeah, be really careful on that. The other things, DPFs, again, another one of those cars, diesel, modern diesels. Some diesels are great at regenerating, others are terrible. The DPFs on these Land Rover products and Jaguars are just renowned for clogging up again. They seem to have a problem as well where they break down. So they actually, where the DPF, which is situated underneath the middle of the car in a big sort of exhaust box, if you like, that honeycomb, it's called, can break down and rattle around. It sounds like a rattling under tray or a rattling bracket underneath. 9 times out of 10, it's actually the DPF breaking apart. That then gets into the EGR system, clogs all that up, and it can cause a whole host of problems. So yeah, unless you've got your heart set on one, I would try and avoid it and look at other things, particularly something German maybe. But if you are going to go down that route and buy one of these Jaguar Land Rovers, for the love of God, buy one that's got good history, or has had a chain done, or take someone who knows what they're doing, a mechanic who can make sure you're not buying a pup. But before we move on to the last 3 cars, I want to talk to you very quickly about our Car UK raffle. Now, those of you who don't know, here on the Car UK channel, we run raffles every single month, offering some amazing classic and modern classic vehicles. And this month, we are offering, just for £1, our fantastic Ford Fiesta ST2. The competition is now live, where you can get your raffle tickets thanks to our friends at RAFFLE. The link is in the description below. It only costs £1 to get involved, and you can get yourself this fantastic Ford Fiesta ST2 Turbo. Does 0-16 just over 6 seconds. This lovely example we picked up with fantastic history can be yours for just £1. And also, you'll be helping out charity as well, because we give away lots of money from these raffles to local charities. This time we are supporting Hopes and Beams, a children's charity based here in Crewe, which we've been supporting a lot this year. They help out kids in the community with disabilities and getting them into sport, and have fantastic results, even getting kids to the Special Olympic Games and winning medals. So they do some amazing stuff, and we love supporting them. So if you can support them and also have the chance of winning this fantastic Ford Fiesta ST2, then get yourself in the link description and buy some raffle tickets. Also, if you buy multiple tickets, you get multiple free tickets. So you buy 5 tickets, you get so many free. You buy 10 tickets, you get so many free. Buy 20 tickets, you get like 100 free. So it gives you even more chance to win. You can find the link in the description or in the comment section. The draw takes place on the 18th of August 2025. So if you're watching this video after that date, please do not click on the link, because it's no good to you. But if you're before the 18th of August 2025, get yourself involved. And finally, if you don't want the car, well, don't worry anyway, because there is an alternative cash prize available of £2,500. So get yourself involved in the Car UK raffle. Right, let's get ourselves on to number 3 on this list. So, number 3 is the Peugeot 308. It's a French vehicle. Now, French cars can get a lot of slack, and I am not one of those people who sign up to this belief that every French car is rubbish, because actually, there are some very, very good French cars out there. In fact, I should do a video on that, talking about the good and the bad one day. Maybe I will do that. But the Peugeot 308 is definitely one that I would put in the bad category. Peugeots actually, particularly when I was growing up, were fantastic cars. In the 80s and 90s and early 2000s, Peugeot produced some of the best cars out there. Arguably like 205 and the 206, the 306 was an absolutely outstanding vehicle. Probably one of the best cars of the 1990s in the medium hatch sector until the Ford Focus came along. It really was a decent car. Peugeot, like I said, the 405, 406, they made some amazing vehicles. But in the 2000s, they really started to sort of drift off, and we started getting things like the 407 and the 308. And the 308 is not a particularly good car. So what is wrong with the Peugeot 308? Well, there are some trim issues and stuff and quality, which just seems to be quite poor on them. However, the main problem you'll face with them is to do with the engines. Now, the petrol engines were the most common, to be honest with you. 1.4, 1.6 petrol units. Both of these engines were called Prince engines. So they were used also in another car we're going to talk about later on. Now, the Prince engine ran from roughly about 2007 to 2014-15. And like I said, was fitted in quite a number of Peugeot Citroëns and some other cars as well. It's quite a powerful little engine, a 16 valve, got decent performance in it, timing chain driven. It sounds quite a decent little setup engine and got a reliable timing chain on it, not a cam belt that can snap all the time. Chains are much better, or at least that's what we're told. Well, not in this case. The timing chains on the Peugeot Citroën Prince engine 1416s is renowned for issues, particularly stretching. They seem to suffer with timing chain stretching. Problems with the variable valve system or the Vanos system on it, so they've got like variable valve time pulleys. They can go wrong. They can suffer with oil pump failures, sludging up. All sorts of things go wrong with them. They've also got quirky things on them as well, like electric water pump systems that can pack up. They were just a sort of overkill engine, really. Too much tech, and it's just unnecessary. They're also as well a GDI engine as well. So a GDI engine, without boring you too much, is basically where the injectors basically go straight into the cylinder bore. So usually an injector will go sort of in the inlet manifold system, and it will wash over the back of the valves, drops into the engine, it bore itself, and that's how you get your combustion. The good thing about a conventional sort of indirect injection, if you want to call it that, fuel, basically, which is a solvent, washes the back of the valves as it goes into the cylinder. In the case of the GDI engines, to make them more efficient, and it does make them more efficient, there is no argument in that, the fuel basically doesn't go in past the valves, it goes directly into the cylinder. The problem being that when you do that, these valves, which are getting carboned up from the combustion process as the piston comes up and the spark plug ignites the fuel and explodes, it leaves a little bit of carbon behind, and that carbon gets stuck behind the back of the valves, and now there is no fuel solvent to wash them valves, and they get sooted up. And eventually they clog up, they don't sit right in the sort of seams, and it causes rough running. It's not a great design, to be honest with you. It's great for fuel economy, but as reliability goes, it's a nightmare. Now, this engine was fitted to other Peugeots and Citroëns, so you could argue, well, why not talk about those as well? And we will mention one or two of them in a minute. But the Peugeot 308 itself was a car that didn't drive particularly very well, in my view. The trim level quality was poor. They seemed to suffer with countless electrical faults. I've had 207s, and look, the 207 also had the Prince engine fitted to it, as well as other good engines, but the Prince engine was fitted to that as well. But that didn't seem to suffer with the same electrical issues that the 308 seemed to suffer. I have bought loads of Peugeot 308s, and I don't know what it is. They just seem to be riddled with electrical faults. They just seem to be a very poorly built car. Now, you could minimise that by going for one of the diesels. The 1.6 diesel was a particularly decent engine, so you could buy one of those instead. But it doesn't really solve the electrical problems, because I've seen them with windows that fall out and they'll break, and dash problems and stuff. They're just not a good car, and I just would not recommend you buy one, no matter how cheap it is. Right, number 4 on my list. This could surprise a few people who aren't in the know, and it's the Mini. So this is the BMW Mini, and it's in particular Minis made between 2006 and 2013. Why is this important? Well, it's important mainly because of the engine again that's fitted, and we're going to go back to the same engine again we just talked about, which is that Prince engine. Peugeot Citroën engine also found its way into the BMW Mini. Now, prior to 2000 and, well, I'd say 6, it's technically 7, but 2056 plate, let's say backwards, the Mini was fitted with a Chrysler engine from 2001, 2006, 7, sort of around there it cut off. That was a very, very good engine. Not the most refinest of engines, but it was very reliable. After that, they decided, for whatever reason, mainly probably down to fuel efficiency and economy and a little bit more power, they went over to the Prince engines, 1.4 and 1.6. They also did a turbocharged Cooper S version as well, but we won't talk about that in this video. The two you're going to come across are the 1.4s, the Mini 1, and the 1.6, the Mini Coopers. And they suffer with the same problems as mentioned a minute ago with the Peugeot 308. GDI engines, they carbon up, they run rough, idle problems, misfires, head gasket issues, water pumps that fail, fans that basically go wrong because the thermostat housings pack up and electrical issues with them, timing chains that stretch, Vanos systems that don't work properly, oil contamination, oil pumps that fail. There's just a whole list of them. If you're going to buy one that's been looked after, low mileage, then great, it will be fine. I'm sure someone will be in the comments going, I've had a Mini from brand new, I had one that was brand new and had it for 5 years, never gave me a problem. It won't, it'll be fine. But when they get to sort of 10 years of age, these engines are not in good shape. They're just not designed to last that long, or they don't stand up, to that time length without real big work being carried out on them. I get offered Minis all the time, and the reason why I don't really dabble in them, that's not really true. A reason why I mostly won't dabble with them, with the odd exception of one that I will spend the money on and make it right, is because they're just so unreliable and always riddled with countless faults, and you have to throw an absolute king's ransom at them to get them right again. So unless you've got your heart set on buying one, just avoid buying them altogether, personally. Now you could argue, well, I'll buy a diesel one, I'll get a diesel version. Even the Mini diesels, up until around, I think it's about 16, 17 plate, the 2 litre diesels they used, they aren't particularly great either. They also suffer with timing chain failure. I wouldn't say they're as problematic as the Prince engines for sort of everyday faults, but they can have their moments. So yeah, even the diesels aren't that great. Now, don't get me wrong, after about 16, 17, there's a lot of new engines that come on, the 1.5s and the later diesel engines. You don't see too many problems about those, but yeah, let's give it time. But that sort of 2007 to 2013 era of Minis, you've really got to want one and be willing to spend the money to keep it going and keep it right and on top of it, because it will take money out of your pocket. They are, unfortunately, a difficult car to keep maintained on the road, which is a shame because they actually are very quirky, they drive nice, they're punchy engines, the performance of the engines is brilliant when they run right. Right, final one on our list today is the Nissan Qashqai and Juke I'm going to use for this engine, because that is predominantly the model of car that you will find this engine mostly fitted to. And the engine is the 1.2 DIG-T engine, also known by, I've forgotten the code number, so I'll put it here, by that code there. But in the motor trade, we call it affectionately as the DIG-T engine. This 1.2 timing chain driven 4-cylinder engine was fitted in mostly Nissans, but also Renaults as well. But like I said, you're mostly going to find it in the Nissan Juke and Nissan Qashqai. Roughly started around 2014 onwards. I think it changed at about 2018-19 to the 1.3 engine. I don't know enough about the 1.3s to start make judgment on them. Supposedly they're a lot more reliable, but the 1.2 from that 14 to 19, that 5-6 year window, was not reliable, not remotely. It is one of the worst petrol engines out there. It is atrocious. Again, suffers with head gasket failure and horrific timing chain failure, and a lot of the time without much notice. Now, I've never seemed to got to the bottom of why this particular engine seems to suffer so badly with horrific timing chain failure. Personally, if I was having a guess, it must be down to a design issue, because I've seen so many with this failure and I've been offered, I get offered them every month, literally 1.2 Dukes and Qashqais with blown engines or chains that are about literally hanging off or barely running. And most of the time, they're just not worth fixing. The engines are so expensive to replace. You try and find a good used one is almost impossible because most of them are in such a poor state anyway. They should be just avoided. There are some cars where, like I've mentioned on this list, for example, where, look, if you buy one that's in good nick or been looked after, or maybe this problem's been resolved, you might be worth a punt. Just do not buy them. Just do not buy these. There is nothing that would convince me to buy on retail or want to own or recommend to someone a Nissan Qashqai or Juke fitted with the 1.2 DIG-T engine in it. Now, don't scrap off the Nissan Qashqai and Juke as a whole, because they got the 1.5 diesel they fit and also the 1.6 petrol that's fitted in the earlier models. That's actually quite two decent engines, to be fair. So I say I'm not having a go at the Nissan Juke or Qashqai. We sell them here. They're popular cars. They're quite well rated. But that engine, that 1.2, and it's also fitted as well in some Renault products as well, so keep your eye out for those. I'll put a list of other vehicles it's fitted to. Must be avoided. They're just a terrible engine, and there are other car options out there that you should be looking at. Keep well away from the 1.2 Dig T engine. Right, there you are. So there are 5 more vehicles that I think you should avoid buying. But I want to know your thoughts and opinion on those 5, and also any other vehicle or engine that you feel should be on this list. And maybe I might come back to you with some feedback on that, or even better, feature it on a future video. We'll talk about some more vehicles. There's plenty of bad ones out there, and also some good ones. So we'll do a good list as well, talking about some vehicles and engines that actually are really super reliable as well. We'll do that in a future video. So get commenting away. Thank you for watching this one. If you could do me a favour, please like and subscribe to the Car UK channel. And also, if you're new, check out my other content. I also run a little car pitch here in Crewe in Cheshire, where I deal in the cheap end of the UK used car market, going to auctions, buying off the public, buying and selling vehicles, turn around and making a profit out of them. And I also go in detail about cars which I buy and why I buy them, and ones that I avoid. You might find it really interesting. Plus as well, we're always doing raffles as well, and lots of other interesting things. So make sure you click that like and subscribe button before you leave this video. Thanks again, chaps, and I'll see you all in the next one.